Hi, I'm Allison.
And I'm Taylor.
And together, we're the Anxiety Chicks.
Each week, we will dive deep into a different topic about anxiety and the real-life experiences we all go through,
while giving you all the top tools and tips you need for your journey to recovery.
Our degrees may say therapist and dietitian, but together we are just real chicks on our own healing journeys too.
Join us as we take you from panic to power and reduce the stigma of mental health. Remember, you're never alone and we're all in this together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Anxiety Chicks podcast. I'm Alison and
And I'm Taylor.
And Taylor's back. Hello, hello. How are you, Taylor?
Good. I wasn't gone. You had the Izzy issue.
Oh, yes, but you're back this week. Yes. You. We had to switch around because of anyone didn't see my stories. Yes, my dog had a little bit of an issue. I had to bring her to the vet, so I had to switch the day. Everything's good though. Yeah, but just another day in the life of
what happened?
She actually hasn't done this in a while, so I thought it was kind of weird, but she used to go into my trash can a lot and like eat stuff from the trash can. And she literally has not done that in years. And so I have never really covered I used to have to move my trash can out of my room, like where she is when I leave. And I haven't had to do that in so long. And I came back and she went in the trash can. There was all stuff in the trash. And I don't even remember what was in there. And she looked like I just was really scared. She just didn't look good.
That's the worst. When you like can't remember what's in there and you're like, you see like a chocolate wrapper on the floor. You're like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and that's what I was scared of with like chocolate or something. Cause I like never eat chocolate in my bed. And of course the one time I did, I was just like excited because it was like from Halloween or something. And that's what I was really scared about. But apparently it has to be like a lot of chocolate in order for them to be like really toxic. So I think she just had to get it out. And
I also heard like the more like percentage, like over 50%, like the more dark chocolate.
Yes, which is crazy. So it was fine, but I had to, it's just scary when you don't know.
It is
scary.
What I mean? Especially because a dog can't like tell you how they're feeling either.
Oh yeah. And it's, I know you have a dog too. And anyone listening that has like a pet, it's so funny how, they can't talk to you, but they still have a personality.
Yeah.
Like a pet still has a personality. And so, like just like a human, if they're lethargic or something's wrong, like their temperament's just different, that something's off, right? Even though they can't talk. So I knew something was just off. And now she's being her lovely self, just staring at me while I eat for an hour.
You're like, okay, you want to eat, so you're good.
Yes, exactly. And her, with dogs, if their nose is wet and stuff and their gums are still pink, like that's good. I've learned all that stuff. Yeah, so thank goodness.
Well,
but thank you for asking.
Izzy is not the only one going through it. I don't know about you, but like lately, since the time change has happened, I swear I know like 5 people who have messaged me, or like personal people like that I'm friends with, and including myself, who have just felt more struggling with mental health the last couple of weeks since the time change.
Oh yeah?
Like I feel like you have to adjust if you're very big on your circadian rhythm. There's so many things, right? But I've noticed this, and I'm curious if you have too in yourself.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it just being pitch black at 5 p.m. has always been an issue for me, because it's like, why? And
oh my gosh. Yeah. No, this goes good with like our topic today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something we should really talk about, because I think a lot of people feel very alone in it. And once you learn more about it, you feel less alone. And that's kind of the whole point of this podcast. But we have an episode, actually, if you want to go listen to it, on seasonal depression disorder. It's a bit older, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll look it up to see which number it is. But it's a seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. right? They
Mm.
say that's what SAD is. That's the actual diagnosis in the DSM because it is an actual diagnosable disorder. It's not just someone who just gets a little sad when seasons change. It
Yeah.
really is, this bout of really bad anxiety or depression that can come on when the seasons change. We think about it a lot when the seasons change from the spring summer to the fall winter, because just from an outsider's perspective, of course, right, that's obvious that that would maybe mean a little bit more depression or anxiety because the weather gets, like you said, the days get darker, the weather gets cold. But there's a lot of reasons why people struggle with seasonal anxiety, specifically whether it's going into the darker months or going into spring summer. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that seasonal anxiety might look like, and what are some causes that, and what some tips are that can help you, and what some causes are.
Yeah, I think like you said, it's important to note like there are some people who, if you're diagnosed with SAD, it is really, really, really debilitating, and like that's a real disorder, right? But then you can also, just kind of struggle with already having anxiety, already having depression, throw in these factors. It could trigger your anxiety or depression if you already struggle with it. Not exactly saying you have SAD, because I think sometimes, you hear this a lot too. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, yeah, I struggle with seasonal, what is it, affective disorder. And it's like, okay, no, it's like really, really real for some people. It's one thing to get like a little sad when the seasons change, but this is a real disorder. So if you are someone who feels absolutely debilitated by the seasons changing and all the factors that come with that, definitely go and get checked out, and just know you're not alone and it is a real thing. But if you're also someone who maybe gets who has anxiety and depression and they get triggered by the changes in the year and environment and life, then this episode's for you. We're going to go
Yeah,
more into the causes of seasonal anxiety and triggers that can come with that, and then how you can cope with those triggers. So, the first one we want to get into is, like
really
Allison
quick.
said, oh,
Sorry, let me just tell you, episode 19 is the seasonal affective
oh,
disorder
that's really
episode.
old.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
really old. It's from 2020. So this is good. We're good. We're due for an update, but yeah. So,
Yes.
but go listen to that, and that actually has a lot more information if you feel like you're struggling more with kind of depression going into the winter, like fall winter months. That episode actually will be really helpful for you.
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to
So
talk
go
a
on.
little more on anxiety today. So, the first one is environmental changes. Changes, like Allison said, spring, summer into fall, winter. There's changes in weather. There's You're less likely to be able to go outside. I know where you live. Like it gets to a point where you just can't go outside and take your walks, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if it gets below, I give myself below like 35 degrees because
Okay, but
it.
even like 40 or 50, you're still a little cold, right? Like
Oh
you're
yeah.
not having the best time.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anyone listening that doesn't live in like seasonal climates that change, like Florida, or, sometimes it gets colder, or like where you are. But, because I grew up in this area, I have a whole stack of puffer coats that I have for the seasons. I have long puffer coats, and they are so warm. So if I put one of those on at like 50 degrees or 45 degrees, sometimes I can even get hot. So those are amazing to still be able to go outside. And that's one thing for me. I know that I talk about all the time on
Invest in
here
a
is that
puffer.
I need, yeah, invest in a puffer. Like going outdoors and being in nature is part of my toolkit. I have to make it a priority. And so knowing, I prepare for these months. I prepare for it. I know that the time change just changed. It's getting darker earlier. It's going to start getting really cold probably in December in like a month or so. And for 3 months, I need to I need to still make it a priority. So that's a huge piece of when environmental changes. Yeah, I mean, it can cause a lot of anxiety because you're not able to do the things maybe that you normally would have motivation for in like the summer months, right?
Well, especially if you struggle with anxiety and you have like a big, like you really follow a routine, and routine is very important for you. I know this is personally how I feel. When my routine gets affected and I have to kind of relearn my routine and figure things out, I can get triggered from that. Like I really, when it is literally pitch black at 5 p.m. and I like to go on that walk around 7:38 and watch the sunset, and that's something I did for so long, and now it's like, okay, no, you can't do that. your day's
Mm.
over by 5 p.m., meaning like I love watching the sunset. Like it's just something I do for my circadian
Yeah.
rhythm. I will watch the sun go down. And like now I'm in meetings like around that time, you know? So it's like
Mm.
there's only so much you can do to adjust that. And it's really accommodating with routine and structure for someone with anxiety is really tough. So I would say like around honestly this time of year, November 19th ish, you're a couple weeks into the time change, a week or two into the time change. And so you might really be feeling those effects of the environmental changes and how you can work through that. Like Allison said, she is prepared. She has that puffer because she knows it's going to get cold. For me, it's like, okay, I might have to take my, and another thing is like, I live in Texas, so I'm used to it being so hot during the day where I can't go on my walk during the day that I usually have to go at 7:30. So now it's like, I've adjusted my schedule to where, okay, it's cool during the day. If I have like a little break between clients or meetings, I can go on my walk during the day. It's not the sunset, but it's still getting outside and making that a priority because I know that those little walks and getting outside, like you said, in nature and in the environment is so beneficial to my anxiety that if I just like cut it off and say, "Oh, well, I can't walk at 7:30, I'm not going to walk now." That's bad. That will lead to a spiral.
Oh, 100%. Well, and I also want to say for anyone listening who actually finds the seasons changing to warmer weather and maybe their anxiety gets higher when it gets hotter, because I've heard that too, right? It might be more common when you think about it, like I said, for people that the darker days and like colder months. But there's a lot of people that have messaged me saying that their anxiety really goes through the roof when spring and summer comes, because in the heat. They get really, really anxious in the heat. They get really short of breath. They feel like certain physical symptoms that happen a lot more intensely when the heat comes on. And that's what creates more anxiety for them. But it's still an environmental change, right? So whether it's going
Mm-hmm.
into winter or going into summer, it's an environmental change. And so, like we talked about preparing with what we need to do to continue our routine, if you're someone that gets this more anxious feeling going into summer, think about what your routine would look like. What can you do to continue that routine and to continue to care for yourself knowing it's going to be really hot? Maybe that's like joining like a local pool, right? Or maybe it's an indoor pool. Maybe you don't want to be outside, but maybe there's somewhere you can go swim. Aquatic therapy is huge, like stress relief, and it's so wonderful for your nervous system. Water, so being able to go into a pool and just kind of get cooled down that way can be really helpful. And also like thinking about some of the things that you can do more indoors. If you can't do your daily walks because it's like 90 degrees out or something, then where can you go that you can move your body, right? Where you're not going to maybe feel like you're hyperventilating or something, because that's really the scariest part when it comes to that. So environmental changes. Yes, that's the first one that can really kind of contribute to seasonal anxiety.
Allison is going to love this next one. It's her favorite to talk about. Holiday stress. Allison loves the holidays. She loves when everybody's together and yelling.
I
You
know I've
get
talked
you
about
get
this.
really triggered by the holidays. It's parts of it.
Well, yeah, I've talked about that before, especially like lately, because I had like death happen. There's just anytime anyone listening who knows or watching who knows, we just talked that awesome episode last week about anticipatory grief and just talking about losing someone you love. And holidays are always going to be so triggering when you're going through like a grieving process. I
Yeah.
mean, it's always going to be heightened. Your anxiety is always going to be heightened when it comes to that, and depression too. So that's like one layer of it is grief. And that's what I think I've been going through the last like couple years, with why it hasn't been my favorite time. But honestly, growing up, I loved it. I loved Christmas and Thanksgiving. I loved Christmas mostly. What I didn't love was like all of the family events during that time. I
That
did
yeah.
love the whole concept of it. I had a lot of anxiety around a lot of people, right? And that as a child is really hard.
Which
And
hang on,
so,
wait.
yeah,
We did an episode, I think something with the holidays, and you talked about it was actually a really good one. You talked a lot about the boundaries you've set with family gatherings and how far you've come with that. So if you're
yes.
curious on that, definitely go find one of our holiday episodes because Allison has really come a long way with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And if you just go back to like either this time of year, last year or the year before.
Here,
It's
I
one
can
of those
check.
episodes. But yes, so family gatherings have always been just more of a not calming factor for me. So
Episode
yeah,
16.
16. Okay. Wow, these are all older ones. I feel like
I
I've
know.
talked about it.
Merry and anxious, it says.
Okay. I've definitely talked about it in other episodes too. But the fact is, social gatherings for people that don't even have social anxiety, it still can be anxiety provoking during the holidays because it's just like a lot of overstimulation. And it's a lot of having to like make small talk and people asking you questions about your life and maybe you don't want to have to like answer to that, or people just saying what they want. You might have, Uncle Sal, who's the most judgmental guy and you don't see him all year on purpose, but then he has at this, party on New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, and he's going to be there, and it's just like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, please don't ask me about this and this, or don't be creepy, whatever. So that can be really hard. And then also like financial pressures can be really
Yeah.
hard this time of year, and really just kind of figuring out how to manage your money and also be giving, and then also like so many obligations. So people just, I don't know, there's just so many obligations, whether it's like Christmas parties or work things or other family. I always put it back to family, but it's friends too, just other obligations in your life that it's really hard for you to say no to. And that's part of what I would recommend is really, when it comes to boundaries, listen to that episode and follow that past episode, and really recognize, what it is you need to help soothe yourself through the next couple weeks and months. If that means like you don't if that means like starting your own tradition, and for the last 20 years you've always been going to your like mother-in-laws because with everyone and that's it, and you're starting to recognize that maybe you want to create new traditions, like that's okay. Maybe you don't go for as long, and then you go and have Christmas Eve at your house with whoever you want, or you go to a friend's house instead, or whatever it is. It's okay to give yourself permission to start new traditions and not have to say yes and go do everything just because you've been doing it every year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, the next one kind of goes into the environmental changes, so we can just kind of go through it fast. But reduce sunlight exposure. I know that that can be an issue for me with my circadian rhythm. Like I talked about, I'm very, very routine with my sleep schedule. When that is messed up, that can throw you off. Any kind of little thing in your body that gets thrown off, especially if you're very hyper focused on how you feel or you're very hyper aware of your body, can trigger anxiety. And so even just like having that mindset of like, hey, there are changes in my life right now regarding things I can't control, such as the amount of sunlight I can get, especially if you work all day. You can't just like go outside midday, you know? And
Mm.
so Allison and I both love, you can get these lights that kind
Oh
of
yeah,
mimic sunlight.
yeah, yeah. I talk
So,
about that all the time too. It's, people call it the happy lamp, right? Or the therapy light. I have them on my storefront on my bio. So you can go to my Amazon storefront if you go to the link in my bio, and there's like maybe 4 or 5 of them that I recommend. And, the way that they work is really interesting. I'm not going to go through the whole science of it, but the light, the actual light that comes out of it's not meant for you to stare right at it. You're not supposed to stare at the light. It's only you're supposed to kind of put yourself not in front of it, but like next to it, and be around the light for like 15-20 minutes at a time, like maybe twice a day, once or twice a day. And the actual light that's coming out of it is a different type of light than other light bulbs you might see. It actually tricks your brain into believing you're outside and that it's sunlight. So that part of the brain really believes that you're getting that level of sun. Of course, it's not as good as the real sun, though, you guys. Come on. I mean, that's what it is. It's just being outside and being in nature and being with vitamin D. It's not the same, but it still really can help.
it's supplemental if you really, really
Yeah.
feel affected by it. And I think there is studies that it can help with your circadian rhythm, especially if you expose yourself to it at times you would maybe
Mm-hmm.
when
Yeah.
daylight savings wasn't happening. Okay, the next one, mood disorders. So, individuals with pre existing mood disorders may experience exacerbation of anxiety symptoms during seasonal changes. I feel like that's a given. That's kind of what I've said. If you are predispositioned to anxiety and depression, it might be triggered during this time of year. And so just even being prepared, and I feel like that's a lot of what's helped me with healing my own anxiety is like being aware. I'm very aware. Like even with my period, I don't know about you, but like I'm like, okay, it's a week before my period. I know around this time I could feel a little more dizzy. I could feel a little more moody. My anxiety's a little more heightened, and reminding myself that like that's okay. And like I'll get past this, and in a couple of days or so, like it'll all be past, you know? And that's really helped me from not spiraling. So I feel like reminding yourself, like, okay, hey, right now I'm experiencing a change in life. Daylight savings is happening. I know I can be a little triggered by this. What are some things I can do to support myself, especially when I know I'm predispositioned to being triggered by this? So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
having
I
that
mean,
support ready to go.
yeah, I mean, this is just more about being aware of your own limitations, right? So if you're someone that struggles with anxiety, hopefully by you're already listening to this episode. So obviously you're doing something to try and help yourself, right? You're becoming more educated on yourself and anxiety, and that's a huge first step, but really getting clear about what thoughts are going on in your mind, right, with your anxiety, what it's connected to, what are some I mean, it's like every time you say the word trigger, it's such a buzzword. I hate saying it all the time, but for real, it's just those things that really make you feel dysregulated, right? Just becoming really clear about your treatment for helping you through anxiety throughout your year. That's what you should be doing throughout the entire year. And knowing more about yourself and knowing more about how seasons can really affect moods is going to be important for you to be aware of, right? Like, okay, the summer, it's like for someone who, is more affected by fall, winter months. Okay, summer's ending. I know the next couple months is when I'm going to need a lot more of this and this and this for myself. What's in my toolkit? I know I'm going to have to really be more sensitive to for myself, give myself permission, and I'm more sensitive to certain things, and I'm going to give myself permission to say no and to do these things differently a lot more than maybe I would have in the summer, because this is what happens this time of year. And it's okay. It's okay. And anyone that makes you feel like it's not okay, then you need to kind of like take a break from that person, set boundaries, or maybe they're not meant to be in your life. Okay. So yeah. So just for sure, be careful with your moods and what you need.
Yeah. Okay, the next one, this kind of goes into the lack of sunlight you might be experiencing, vitamin D deficiency. It's under the depression trigger or whatever, but vitamin D deficiency is very correlated with anxiety too. A lot of clients that I test and see, honestly, like almost every person I see nowadays has a vitamin D deficiency. And I know even myself, I would consider myself someone who eats a very well balanced diet. If I don't supplement, I am deficient. And I think that
Mm.
also just I mean, we could go into this deeper soil and just like bioavailability of nutritional benefits in our food nowadays. It's just very different. Anyways, but that is a big factor. And you might not realize it, but you are getting a lot more vitamin D when you are in the sunlight in the summer and spring months. That I think it's very important during this time of year to supplement with vitamin D, and especially vitamin D3 with K. You really need that K2. If you're just supplementing with vitamin D and you feel like you might want to just get it tested, I also very much so recommend that. When you go to your doctor, ask for them to pull your vitamin D levels, see where you're at. Maybe you're only supplementing with vitamin D and you feel fine from that and your levels are fine, that's awesome. But some people can't absorb that level of vitamin D, so they need that K2 with it. So, definitely, first step, ask your doctor to pull that panel for you. It's not an expensive panel. A lot of times you have to ask your doctor to do it, they don't just naturally pull it when you get your blood work done. It's a very important vitamin to get tested, in my opinion. Low levels of vitamin D is connected to depression and anxiety. So, definitely ask for that and get that done. And then also just looking into foods. I mean, food is great. High level of vitamin D foods. Eggs are very potent of vitamin D, but definitely get that checked out and worked on, especially if you struggle with seasonal anxiety and depression.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's, when you just think about how much it affects the moods of and on our actual body, like, and what we produce in our bodies, like the lack of sunlight we get and the isolation that happens when it gets colder. I mean, it's crazy. Like you need to
Yeah.
supplement for that, right?
Yeah.
If it really affects you. So 100% get those levels tested along with like all your vitamin levels if you can, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, the next one, I definitely feel this. I don't know if you do too, but
Yeah.
sleeping issues. So I am
Oh my
so
god.
prone to when no, it's from the concept of when it's like
Yeah.
cold and gloomy outside. Man, getting up in the morning, it's
Oh
not even
yeah.
like I'm a sad or anxious thing. You are just so dang cozy and like get so okay, I have a tip for this. This really helps me. But sometimes I am just so warm and cozy that, like, yeah, I'll oversleep. And like getting out of bed is a struggle in the cold months. So, what
Hmm.
helps me is the night before, I literally fold a sweatshirt and fuzzy socks and I put it next to my bed. And so I put those on. I put the sweatshirt and the fuzzy socks on before I roll out of bed because then I'll get like warm. And then I'm like, okay, I can get out of bed. But if you just like get out of bed in your pajamas, like you're less likely to do it. So like I literally have to have something that like warms me up to get out. I mean, some people have like slippers and stuff, but like that's
Hmm.
my tip.
I love that. That's such a good idea. That's almost like that's almost when we're talking about like sleep hygiene, right? That's something I would recommend. Just sleep hygiene. I talk about it all the time. But something like keeping your phone far from you and putting your alarm on so you have to actually get out of bed
Yeah.
to wake up
Yeah.
and like turn the alarm off, right? That you're like, oh my gosh, no, I have to actually get out of bed to do that. And that kind of motivates you to get out of bed, right?
Hmm.
That would actually be my suggestion for, and that's what I do for myself, because same thing with these types of months. Oh my gosh, I love my bed. First of all, I love my bed, whatever time of year it is. I just love bed and I love being in bed. And not in like a clinical way or maladaptive way. There have been times like that too, though, but I just really love being cozy and it's like a safe space for me. And then put darker days and colder days and cozy and everyone else kind of in the world's doing the same, or in at least where it's cold is doing the same thing. And no, I have to behaviorally like make sure, okay, I need to put my phone over there because I need to get out of bed in order to kind of get up to my phone. One thing I do for is similar to you, but I do this all year actually. Is I set out, or when I wake up, sometimes I set it out, but when I wake up, I put and this is what I can do because of the work that I do, the line of work I do. And I understand people that have 9 to 5 jobs might not be able to really do this. But when I wake up, I put on my athleisure wear or my like clothes that I know I want to, walk in for the day or I want to be active in, like the clothes that help me be active. So I make sure I put all of those clothes on right away and my sneakers on. So then I'm already kind of like ready for the day to be active whenever I have to. It doesn't work out every day, but for anyone that does work a 9 to 5 job, uh, you know, this would be really helpful in kind of keeping, like we were talking about routine before, is even when you come back from work right away, put on those, instead of putting on your sweatpants, putting on some workout pants and just taking a walk, right? Like putting the clothes on first instead of your comfy, cozy clothes and move your body. All of this stuff helps with sleep, by the way. That's why I'm saying it. But, it's hard. It's really hard with sleep, period. Whatever time of year it is. Honestly, for me, forget it. I've talked about sleep the last couple weeks, months because of my perimenopause and just how I've been trying to work on figuring it out. But sleep hygiene is going to be huge. I talk about it all the time. Sleep hygiene, the environment you're sleeping in, the temperature you're sleeping in, the light that comes in, the sound that comes in. Get a noise machine if the sound's bad. I sleep with an eye mask. It's been a game changer. A lot of sleep experts recommend eye masks. They're amazing for keeping, being in the darkness, actual getting that REM sleep. So lots of other things with sleep, but yeah, totally important.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last one. Social isolation. Shorter days and colder weather can lead to reduced social interactions. I know that it's never good to isolate yourself. I know a lot of times when my anxiety is really bad, I just want to isolate myself, but that usually leads to more anxiety. And so it's super, super important to still do the things and surround yourself with the people. I know it's harder when there's less longer days. The days feel shorter, so you feel like you can only get in so much into your day. So really trying to not socially isolate yourself is very important. And community is so important for anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I could literally just go off on a tangent about this for an hour. Just not even having to do with seasonal anxiety, right? Like social isolation is just not good for you. It's not good for you.
It's just not good.
It isn't. I mean, if you, I don't want to
If
get
you
like
even look at the studies from the pandemic, like just
oh,
how much anxiety and depression just went
yeah.
up from
I
social isolation.
I
I
was
mean, I think we
actually
all kind of changed a little bit, you know?
100%. I was actually going to go even darker and talk about the studies related to um prisoners that actually go into their, what's it called, social isolation, or whatever it is that they throw them into, which is literally is just a toilet and they don't even have a bed in the room. I don't know,
Yeah.
there's a whole debate about that, but they've so many studies and after that show that these prisoners, gosh, like it's not even anxiety depression, they actually have psychosis after a
Yeah.
while when they're isolated. I mean, so if you're someone who does introvert, extrovert, ambivert, whatever you are, make sure that you are prioritizing social interaction. Okay. Couple times a week, couple times you can. You have to make sure you're prioritizing that, even if you're someone that isn't like energized by other people. Find at least one of that support system, one person maybe. You just need to really, really prioritize social interaction and connecting with someone at least on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my healing tip
Definitely.
of the week, actually. Reach out to someone. Reach out to someone. I think I actually had that a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know. It's just so important to reach out to somebody and just get coffee or like have a FaceTime with someone. Like call someone, stop texting people. Actually call somebody, say, "Hey, let's FaceTime." Like have that social interaction.
Yes. Okay. Anxiety quote of the day, since you just did healing tip of the day. Anxiety does not empty tomorrow of its sorrows, but only empties today of its strengths.
Ooh, that's so lovely. I like that one. Wow. We're reflecting over here. Anxiety chicks.
Yeah.
They're like, what's
I
this
mean,
dead
it's
air?
true, you know?
I am just reflecting on it and I want you guys to reflect on it. Okay, amazing. I love this episode. Hopefully, this helped you guys kind of just prepare a little bit for the season coming up. If you are someone who, I don't know, is starting to dread it, just, Thanksgiving's next week. What? Okay. So crazy. And then there's really
So
not that much time
crazy.
between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And whatever you celebrate, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, what are the other anyway, if I didn't remember, I'm sorry for anyone listening, but whatever you celebrate, just remember these, that just to be aware of these things that might happen if you struggle with anxiety and what you can do to help yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, I'm Allison.
And I'm Taylor.
And we're the hosts of the Anxiety Chicks podcast, where we dive deep into the reality of anxiety, nutrition, and mental health.
Listen to the Anxiety Chicks on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.